Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. I'm your host Mark Angelides, and today I'm joined once again by the legal mind known throughout the universe as Mr. Scott D. Cosenza. Good to have you on board, Scott.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you.
Well, our topic today has to be the Supreme Court. Starts back in session today, and who knows what's going to happen with it? I certainly don't, which is why we've got you here, Scott, to have a look for us. So, Scott, what is the Supreme Court's usual session?
Well, we have had a lot of talk about the Supreme Court, and not much of it has been about the actual goings-on at the Supreme Court, rather than who gets to go and be a justice on it, Mark.
True enough.
And the typical schedule, which is being observed this year, is that October 1 or the Monday thereafter is the start of the Supreme Court's fall term, or the new season, as we lawyers would view it in Supreme Court jurisprudence, when the new cases they start to hear the new cases. So they've already started, and they will, on a rolling basis, accept new cases for judgment until all those cases are heard and then decided on by the summer break.
All right.
And that's their typical schedule.
But
They're in charge of making it themselves. Unlike, the congressional, national elections and so forth are prescribed in the Constitution, but the Supreme Court itself sets its own schedule. And that's been their schedule for a while.
The power they have, Scott, the power they have.
Yeah.
My question here, there's only 8 of them, and likely to be for a little while longer at least, depending on the FBI investigation. But how does this work with just 8 members?
Well, if there's a 4-4 tie on a case, then the lower court ruling stands.
Right.
So the thing is, only, it's like the cases that we tend to care most about, those are the ones that are most likely to have a 5-4 split or a more evenly divided split. Most of the cases, or many of the cases that the Supreme Court takes, are decided on a unanimous basis or a near unanimous basis.
Yeah.
And don't involve contentious issues like abortion or how we live our daily lives, but they're more obscure commercial clauses, or how government relates to one another, whether it's federal and state, or state and local and federal. So that's more typical. And for those cases that don't have a 4-4 tie, they'll just be ruled on as they would normally, except the total number of justices voting will be reduced by 1.
Okay.
In some instances, depending on when, we'll presume we will get a new justice at some point, Mark. If that happens during the court's term, then what can be an option is, if there's a tie, the court can rehear a case. Okay. So basically, until that decision has been handed down, they're still under deliberations. So they can go back to the well if they want, if they get that additional justice seated to the court before the term expires. But if Democrats have their way, it'll be several terms, I guess, before that becomes true.
Either, like, I'm just taking a guess here, but either 2020 or 2024.
Well, what I've heard speculated,
they wouldn't put a new Supreme Court justice on.
Well, they want to have the Senate and a Democrat in the White House before it comes up again. That seems to be the goal of at least many Senate Democrats, and especially the Senate Democrats on the Judiciary Committee, who, I don't know that if people know this now, but the Judiciary Committee placement is where you place your pit bulls and toe the liners. It's not where you place your wishy-washy types. So
I noticed that there's a lot of very powerful, strong characters, and Cory Booker.
Yes, well,
Spartacus himself.
There are.
So, I mean,
all willing to. Well, I was going to say something derogatory about them tripping over the bodies of the Kavanaugh family on the way to seeking higher office, but I'll let discretion be the better part of valor and reserve that judgment.
So we know that there's going to be obviously cases coming up, and I have looked through the schedule to see some things, and there was one that talked about arbitrary arbitrations, which bored me senseless. But in your opinion, as somebody who does follow this stuff, what are the big cases that you're going to be watching?
Well, I'd say the biggest case, Mark, concerns the criminal law, which I tend to pay more attention to. And it concerns, we have a notion in the United States of a prohibition against double jeopardy. It's very common in Western legal tradition, which is that you can't be tried for the same crime twice. But unlike places like the UK that have more unitary systems, because of the dual sovereignty of the state and federal governments, we can have a situation where people are tried by their state court and placed in criminal jeopardy of having to go to prison, and then being tried again for the same set of facts. Now, the name of the crime may be called something different, but the same set of facts in federal court also with jeopardy attaching. And the question then becomes, does the Constitution allow for that, or does it prohibit it under the double jeopardy clause? So I think it's a fascinating issue, and I'll be watching it closely.
You know, Scott, I seem to recall that people were asking for, am I right in thinking Dinesh D'Souza? They were asking for him to be retried in the state of New York for what he's already been pardoned for by President Trump.
Yeah,
is that right?
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
I heard that. So who happens to be bringing this case to the Supreme Court? It's not Cuomo, is it? Governor Cuomo?
No. The case has nothing to do with New York.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, this is an interview, a talk about the Supreme Court. I've got to ask the question, Scott. Kavanaugh, yay or nay? Have we got a...
I think like 6 or 8 months ago, my Magic 8 Ball fell off the desk and broke, Mark, and I haven't had it replaced. And that perhaps accounts for my inability here. How does one begin to guess, given the string of facts that we have? I will say, though, that the body blows and continuous assault against Judge Kavanaugh, it would be... it's never surprising when something that is heavily advertised is heavily bought, right? I mean, that's the purpose of advertising. So it wouldn't be surprising that somebody that is heavily attacked shows some serious damage because of those attacks. So with that word of caution, I'll just say that I hope that whoever the Supreme Court joins the Supreme Court, some significant majority of the people think they don't have an asterisk next to their name.
Okay, well, thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you taking the time to fill us in on this information here. And most of all, thanks to you at home for watching. Wouldn't be done without you. Now, you can go to the App Store, the Google App Store, the Apple iPhone Store, I think it's called, to download the Liberty Nation app, or you can go straight onto our website at libertynation.com for more articles, radio, podcasts, the works. Worst case scenario, press subscribe, press like, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Visit us at libertynation.com.